Um, who is fit to be a leader? I think that this is a question that the world is asking us today. It's to do with local society, worldwide, and rabbis are not exception. There are many questions, many similar questions asked throughout rabbinic literature. Who is fit to be a leader? For example, Shulchan Aruch, a late medieval compendium of Jewish law, has this approach. Oh, it didn't include. It's okay, I will read it to you. The Shulchan Aruch, in its tractate Orach Chaim, says, we do not appoint anyone who does not have full beard because of the honor of the congregation. Well, I'm not sure if my beard would qualify. And as a liberal rabbi, I don't treat this book as a book of law, but as a Jewish source. And I treat it as a Jewish source, with its wisdom and with its bias towards those people who wrote it. And we know that the Jewish literature, on the whole, is written, especially until recently, is written by man for man. And therefore, I would interpret this law in a different way, that the beard in this way is not the main criteria, but the maturity of the person. And therefore, you can reinterpret it in this way. So the context of this law and this discussion is about the one who is fit to be a leader of prayer. Who is in Hebrew, the phrase is shliach tzibur. Shaliach is the representative, or the one who is sent, or messenger, or tzibur, congregation. The one who performs something on behalf of the congregation. So, and this is not the earliest source that asks this question. Who is the earlier? Who is fit to be a leader? So even the Torah text speaks about it. So we know many examples, like Moses, who couldn't even speak in the beginning, became a leader. So it's not a charisma that is required, or Moses wasn't knowledgeable about Judaism at the time he became a leader. So it's not the knowledge. So what is the requirement of being a leader? So in this week's Torah portion, Parashat Tzav, focuses on sacrificial rituals. And to be honest, if you read this Torah portion, you would assume that the entire Judaism is only about animal sacrifices. And it's not a fortunate portion if you are bar or bat mitzvah, because it's focused on so much of the details of the sacrifices. However, there are few things that we can talk about from modern perspective. The Hebrew word for sacrifice is korban, which comes from the same root as the word karov, which means near, close by. So this linguistic link suggests that the ritual behind the sacrifices bind Israelites closer together, so make them near, close to each other, and probably to God as well. So from that perspective, in ancient Israel, the Jewish priests, Kohanim, were the face and representatives of the community before God. And therefore, they were our spiritual leaders. And this week we read about them, or investment, or the ritual when they become the public figures for the Jewish worship. So we don't stop at the Torah. If you want to know how to lead the Jewish life today, you begin with the Torah, but you never stop there, Because if it was just a Torah law that we would live by, we would make sacrifices today and not a prayer. So Maimonides, the medieval Jewish philosopher, believed that God introduced animal sacrifices to help the Israelites move away from their old ways of worship and towards prayer. So it was never God's intention to establish animal sacrifices, Maimonides says. And we are talking about Maimonides lived in the 12th century, very early on, saying that sacrifices was never the intention. God introduced many laws and as just temporary measures, he thought, to help the Israelites adjust to a new way of worship, but do it gradually. Sacrificing animals was a common way of worship in those days. But God allowed the Israelites to continue, while Moses helped them to become the kingdom of priests and a holy nation as a transitional step from uncontrolled sacrifices, where people before the Torah, before this change and the tabernacle and the central place for sacrifices, people could sacrifice any time without any limit. So the introduction of sacrifices were limiting. You would do it only in one place in the world and only at a particular times and only by certain people. So it was limiting for people to have this. But the actual intention is to get rid of it altogether. And if you look at sacrifices from this perspective, it becomes clear that we don't want sacrifices anymore. By the way, many books of prophets, many prophets also referred to it. Is it the animal sacrifices that I desire? No, just to do justice and break the chains of injustice in the world. So we are much better with prayer, and perhaps Maimonides says the contemplation of God in nature is even better than prayer, which is a very interesting hint into how a future Judaism might look like. So this approach helps us to see meaning in the Torah beyond its pshat, the literal meaning. So if we have a look at the passage from the end of this week's Torah portion, the ordination of priests, this is what it says. This is how it went. And try to imagine this ritual. It's not a nice picture, I warn you, but rabbis or later scholars made something meaningful out of it. Moses brought forward the second ram, or a ram of ordination. Aaron and his sons laid their hands upon the ram's head, and it was slaughtered. Moses took some of its blood and put on the ridge of Aaron's right ear, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. And the same he did for, I'm retelling, and the same he did for all his sons, for all other priests. And that was the ordination process. I would not want to be covered in blood, to be honest, but on a surface level, this ritual is ancient and absolutely irrelevant, and it is true. For us, it's unheard of to be covered, to do this kind of ritual. But very early on in our tradition, people interpreted it and saw the meaning in its symbolism rather in its details. For example, Philo, the philosopher that at some point became the official Jewish voice in the Roman Empire, he said that he noticed that everything to do with this ritual was with the right-hand side of priests. So why right-hand side? It's a logical question to ask. And he says, on the right side, signifying by this action that the perfect priest, the perfect leader, must be pure in every word, and action, and his whole life. For it is the hearing which judges of his words, and the hand is the symbol of action, and the foot is of the way in which a leader walks in life. So, taking the linguistical connection, and it works in English as well, the Philos saw this ritual as a symbol of message to Aaron and his sons to be right, and to do the right things, to be able to hear, to be able to act, and to be able to choose the right path. They're about to become spiritual leaders for many people. This ritual, according to Philo, is a reminder to them that the rest of the community, that their words, their action, and their choices in lives matter, and people watch you, people look at you, and they must be right. So much, much later, about 15 centuries later, after the destruction of the temple, Judaism had a similar question, but this time not about priests, but about service leaders, shlichei tzibur. I quoted some of this discussion before, but that was in a way as a way of introducing this as a joke about the beard. This passage has another significant discussion and two more paragraphs. And this is what Shulchan Aruch says. The service leader must be one who is fit. And the question, who is fit? One who is free of sin, who has never had a poor reputation, even in his youth, who is humble, who is acceptable to the nation, who is skilled at reading and linguistical chanting, whose voice is pleasant, who is accustomed to reading Torah, prophets, and writings. Well, but then soon enough, these rabbis realized that you can't find this candidate that fits all the boxes. Then the next paragraph says, if no one fits these qualifications, and then the question, which one would you pick? What is the most important of all? Is it the free of sin? Is it who's never had poor reputation, even if they're youth? Is it the one who is humble? Is it the one who is acceptable to the nation? Is it the one who is skilled? So what is it? What do you need to pick if you don't have ideal? And then they say, you should pick the one with good deeds in the community. In other words, Jewish intellectual tradition, be it Torah scholars interpreting the rituals of sacrifices and the role of priests or rabbis discussing the job description for service leaders, always saw leaders as more than just a function. If you're responsible for other people, as a parent, as a boss, or as a political leader, or as a service leader, doesn't matter. You need to be skilled, but more importantly, you need to be a good person. And all this discussion reminded me of an old joke about the Kohanim, about the priests. So to understand this joke, you need to know that even in Orthodox Judaism, whereas Jewishness is transferred to you by mother's life, but the priest, to become a Kohen, you need your father to be Kohen. So, and that's a deal today. So, one day, a Jewish person, comes to an Orthodox rabbi and asks, Rabbi, I would like to become a Kohen. What can I do? How much shall I pay for it? And of course, Orthodox rabbi would say, go away. We don't do these things. Then the same person came to a less strict rabbi, let's say Masorti rabbi, and asked the same question. So, Rabbi, how much shall I pay to become a Kohen? And the Masorti rabbi said the same. Go away. I don't want to see you anymore. And then this person came, well, we're in a liberal synagogue, let it be a liberal rabbi, and came and said, Rabbi, how much shall I pay to become a Kohen? And then a liberal rabbi would asked, well, tell me a bit more. I mean, we don't believe in Kohanim. We don't. But tell me a bit more. Why do you want to become Kohen? What do you mean why? My father was a Kohen. My grandfather was a Kohen. And my great-great-father was a Kohen too. So I want to be Kohen too. So, and so it worked this way. So I think, first of all, you need to be a good person and ask questions before you send people away. Shabbat Shalom. We are going to conclude our service on... yes, it works.